I showed up for Christmas, shivering on the doorstep. My breath misted in the icy air, fingers numb even inside my gloves. I knocked once, then rang the bell. Christmas lights twinkled from the windows, laughter spilling out like warm honey. My mother's shadow flickered behind the glass. And then the door swung open. "Sorry," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "I think you have the wrong house." I blinked. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "It's me." Her expression didn't change. Calm. Almost pleasant. "I'm sorry. I don't recognize you." The door clicked shut. Not slammed. Just a firm, final shut that echoed in the cold air around me. "Before I go any further, I need you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound absolutely insane. But I promise you, every single word is true." I stood there on that doorstep, the cold biting through my coat and reaching somewhere deeper than my skin. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. Some cruel, twisted prank they dreamed up. But then I heard it. The muffled laughter bleeding through the walls. The clinking of glasses. The warmth of family cheer that I wasn't part of. My phone buzzed in my pocket. My brother's name flashed across the screen. I answered, my voice tight. "What the hell was that?" "Don't be upset," Ethan began, his tone somewhere between pity and irritation. "But you know we couldn't let you in." "What?" The word came out as a whisper. I was still staring at those glowing windows, my vision blurring at the edges. "You know how things are, okay? It's complicated. Just please don't make a scene." A scene. My voice cracked on the word. And then I heard it. Someone in the background, not quite whispering. The words that would change everything. "He still thinks helping with rent means he's automatically included." Silence. Cold, crushing silence pressed against my eardrums. I hung up without another word. My breath came in short, angry bursts, clouding the freezing air around me. I stood there by my car, staring at the house. The house I had saved last year when Dad was behind on the mortgage. The house where I'd covered utilities, groceries, even Christmas gifts when Mom's budget got tight. And they shut me out. Not just shut me out. They acted like I didn't exist. But they didn't know what I was about to do. They had no idea what was coming. I wasn't always the outsider. For most of my life, I was the fix-it son. The one who stepped in whenever there was a crisis. When Dad's business failed 4 years ago, it was my salary that kept the house from slipping into foreclosure. I worked overtime, skipped meals, lived in a studio apartment that barely fit a bed. But I never complained. Because that's what family does, right? When Mom needed emergency surgery, it was my credit card they swiped at the hospital. When my younger brother Ethan graduated college with more debt than prospects, it was my account that covered his rent, his car payments, his groceries while he figured things out. I got a steady job straight out of college at a tech firm. Climbed the ladder fast while they called it luck. I called it 60-hour work weeks, eating instant ramen, and living in a shoebox. But none of that mattered to them. Whenever they needed something, I was the one they called. "Daniel, honey, we're a little behind on the electric bill. Can you help?" "Dan, Ethan's having a hard time. Could you just spot him for gas?" "Sweetheart, your father's been so stressed. Could you help with the mortgage?" Just for a bit. Just for a bit. Months turned into years. I became the silent safety net, invisible until needed. I still remember the first time I thought something was wrong. Thanksgiving last year. I'd covered the entire dinner. The roast, the pies, even the overpriced bottle of wine Dad insisted on. But when it was time for the family photo, they shuffled me off to the side. Told me to take the picture. "Come on, Dan," Mom said, waving me back. "We just want family in the shot." I laughed it off. A little jab. A misunderstanding. That's all. But the little things started piling up after that. Ethan got a brand new gaming PC setup for his birthday. A gift from our parents. When I asked why I never got anything close to that, Mom chuckled. "Oh, Daniel, you never needed anything. You're so independent." Independent. The polite word for alone. Then came the whispers. The little jokes that twisted like knives in my gut. He thinks paying a few bills makes him part of the family. He's always throwing money around, but what else does he have? But the worst was Mom. Always there with a smile and quiet, calculated cruelty. "You know, Ethan has such a bright future. If only you could be a little more supportive of him." Supportive. I'd paid his student loans. I'd covered his rent when he quit his job to find himself. I'd even co-signed his credit card because he needed to build his credit. And when I tried to pull back, when I mentioned how tight my own finances were getting, Mom's voice would lower. Soft and disappointed. "Family is about sacrifice, Daniel. We were always there for you." There for me? I thought of my 27th birthday. The one they all forgot. I thought of the hospital bill I'd paid when Dad slipped on ice. How they didn't tell me he was better until 2 weeks later. I thought of the time I had to cancel a trip with friends because Ethan called me crying about needing rent money. Again. But that Christmas night, standing in the cold, something inside me snapped. I wasn't their son. I was their sponsor. My hands were shaking as I stood by my car. Not from the cold anymore. From something else. Something dark and powerful building in my chest. I remembered something suddenly. The home security system. The one I'd installed 2 years ago when they were worried about break-ins. The one I'd paid for, of course. The app was still on my phone. I opened it with trembling fingers. The camera aimed at their living room had audio. I could see the timestamp. I rewound to 20 minutes before I'd arrived at their door. And I listened. Mom's voice came through clear as crystal. He'll probably make a scene when we don't let him in. Dad laughed. Just tell him we don't recognize him. He'll get the hint. Ethan's voice, bright with amusement. This is savage. I love it. Mom again. He's been so clingy lately. Always expecting to be included just because he pays some bills. Well, Dad said, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. After tonight, maybe he'll finally understand his place. I recorded it. Every word. Saved it directly from the security feed to my phone. Then I scrolled back. Weeks. Months. Every time they'd mocked me when I wasn't there. Every scheming conversation about how to ask me for more money. Every laugh at my expense. I downloaded everything. And then I did something I'd never had the courage to do before. I opened my banking app. My hands were steady now. Perfectly steady. First, the automatic transfer for their rent. Cancelled. Next, the joint emergency account where I deposited $500 every month. Closed. The secondary card I'd given Ethan to help with gas. Blocked. But I didn't stop there. I called their landlord directly. The rent check from my account wouldn't clear. Effective immediately. Then I systematically removed my payment information from their electric company. Their internet provider. The credit card I'd co-signed. I even withdrew my name as their emergency contact from all their medical and financial accounts. Each click felt like cutting a rope. A rope that had been strangling me for years. By the time I drove away from that house, my phone was already vibrating. The screen kept lighting up with call after call. Mom. Dad. Ethan. Even my Aunt Carol, who they'd clearly recruited to guilt trip me. I didn't answer a single one. By morning, I had 61 missed calls. And I felt nothing. I slept better that night than I had in years. Deep, dreamless sleep. No buzzing phone at 2 a.m. about emergencies. No guilt twisting in my stomach. Just quiet. When I woke up, I made coffee and sat by my window, watching the snow fall. My phone sat on the counter, silent now. The notification badge showed 61 missed calls. Dozens of text messages. Voicemails filling up my inbox. I scrolled through the messages without opening them. Mom's text shifted from confusion to panic. Daniel, please pick up. It's Christmas. We need to talk. Ethan's were shorter, angrier. Dude, stop being dramatic. Let's talk. Dad's were commands. You know your mother is upset. Call her back. But the words never changed. No apologies. No acknowledgement. Just demands. Like always. 3 days passed in beautiful silence. 3 days of peace I hadn't experienced in years. I worked from my apartment, cooked meals for myself, took long walks without my phone buzzing in my pocket every 10 minutes. But I knew it couldn't last. And on the third day, I finally picked up when Mom called. Daniel. Her voice was sharp, frantic. Like broken glass. What did you do? The rent's not paid. The card isn't working. Did you? I did, I interrupted. My voice was calm. Almost bored. I canceled everything. You can't just do this. She shrieked, and I could picture her face. Red and blotchy. Your brother needs that card for gas. We need the rent covered. Your father is. I don't care. Silence. For the first time in my entire life, my mother had nothing to say. I could almost picture her standing there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Daniel, she whispered, and the panic gave way to something colder. You're being incredibly selfish. Selfish? I laughed. The sound was sharp enough to sting. Was it selfish when I paid your electric bill last month? When I covered Dad's prescription because his insurance didn't work? Was it selfish when I paid for Ethan's entire graduation trip? That was a gift, she snapped. The warmth was gone now, replaced with ice. You can't hold that over us. A gift. I leaned back against my couch, staring at the empty wall. A gift is something you give freely. Not something you demand. Not something you guilt someone into giving. You know how hard it is for your brother, she hissed. Not everyone's as comfortable as you are. Comfortable. I almost laughed again. Is that what you call it? Working 60-hour weeks while he plays video games? Watching you shower him with praise for his potential while I'm nothing more than a walking ATM. You need to calm down, she snapped. Then sacrifice something, I shouted. The words were out before I could stop them. Sacrifice that new patio furniture you got. Sacrifice the vacations you keep posting about. Sacrifice Ethan's struggle phase and tell him to get a real job. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. I don't recognize you anymore, Daniel. You're being cruel. No, Mom. I'm being clear. I'm done. I hung up. The silence that followed felt like diving into cold water. Shocking. Cleansing. Less than an hour later, Ethan called. His voice was quieter than Mom's, but just as venomous. Bro, what is wrong with you? Mom's crying. Dad's freaking out. You just cut us off? Yes. You can't just do that. We're family. No, I said quietly. We're not. Not anymore. Are you serious right now? His voice cracked. The fake shock barely masking the fury underneath. All this because of some money? You've lost it. Because of money? I felt my voice rising. You mean the money I've spent paying your rent, your credit card, your stupid streaming subscriptions? Or maybe you mean the money I used to keep the lights on at Mom and Dad's house because they were too busy pretending to be upper class to pay their bills. You're such a... No. I'm awake. I finally see it. You think I'm just the guy you call when the world's falling apart. But I'm not. Not anymore. You're being dramatic, he spat. But I heard it. The fear beneath the anger. You're really going to ruin Christmas over this? Christmas. I almost laughed. Was I even invited to Christmas? Or was I just the one expected to pay for it? I can't believe you. You don't have to. I hung up on him too. And then I waited. Because I knew what was coming next. The group text arrived an hour later. Mom's number. Family meeting. Now. Everyone come to the house. I stared at it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Stay in my warm, quiet apartment and let them scream into the void. But a dark, cold fury was pulsing through my veins. I wanted them to see my face when I said no. I wanted them to understand that this time, I wasn't coming back. So I grabbed my coat, locked the door, and drove. Pause right here. I need to know what you're thinking. Comment 1 if you think I'm doing the right thing. Comment 2 if you think I'm going too far. Comment 3 if you would have done the exact same thing. Because what happens next is when everything explodes. The house was lit up like a postcard when I pulled into the driveway. Warm light spilling from every window. The wreath on the door twisted with fake holly and gold ribbon. I stepped inside without knocking. They were all there. Mom, her face blotchy and tear-streaked. Dad pacing by the fireplace, his fists clenched tight. And Ethan, slouched on the couch with his phone glowing in his hands. Finally, Mom cried, rushing toward me with her arms out. Daniel, this has gone too far. We're family. We don't just turn our backs on each other. You did, I said quietly. The room froze. I saw the shock flash across her eyes. The way Dad's pacing stopped mid-step. Even Ethan looked up from his phone, his mouth falling open. You did, I repeated, and my voice was steady now. Clear. The moment you closed that door on me. The moment you shut me out and laughed about me behind my back. The moment you decided that I was nothing but a wallet. That's not true, Mom gasped. You're our son. Am I? I stepped forward, feeling the heat in my chest burning through the cold. Because I was here when you needed rent. When you needed the roof fixed. When Dad needed his car repaired. But Christmas? I was nothing. Not even worth a knock on the door. Just shut out. Daniel, you don't understand, Dad began, his voice low. Almost pleading. Then explain it to me. He glanced at Mom. Then at Ethan. No one spoke. Exactly. I pulled out my phone. Opened the security camera app. Found the saved recording from Christmas Eve. And I hit play. Their voices filled the room. Mom's words, casual and cruel. He's been so clingy lately. Always expecting to be included just because he pays some bills. Dad's laugh. Well, after tonight, maybe he'll finally understand his place. Ethan's voice, bright with amusement. This is savage. I love it. I watched the color drain from Mom's face. From all their faces. You recorded us? Mom whispered. Your security camera recorded you, I said. The one I installed. The one I pay for. Daniel, you don't understand, Dad tried again. Then explain it to me. Silence. Heavy and damning. Exactly. I turned toward the door. Wait. Mom's voice cracked. You can't just leave. We're family. Family means sacrifice, I said without turning around. Then start sacrificing. Because I'm done. Ethan jumped up, his face red. Oh, so what? You're going to take your money and run? Go cry in your fancy apartment while we suffer? I turned back and looked at him. Really looked at him. Suffer? You're 25 years old and still living off your parents. You're not suffering. You're freeloading. Enough. Dad's voice boomed through the room. Daniel, we can fix this. Just come back. Help out like you always do. No. Mom's face twisted, tears streaming down her cheeks. Daniel, please. We're your family. We love you. I looked at her. At Dad's stunned silence. At Ethan's twisted scowl. And I felt nothing. Nothing but cold, clear certainty. Love, I whispered. You love my money. But me? I was just convenient. I walked out. Left them standing in the glow of their perfect, warm house. The cold bit at my face as I got into my car, but it felt like freedom. My phone started buzzing again before I even made it home. But I didn't answer. I let it ring and ring until the screen went dark and the road stretched ahead of me. Clear and quiet. 3 days passed. 3 more days of silence. I worked. I ate. I slept. I existed without them for the first time in years. And then they showed up at my door. I heard the knock and looked through the peephole. Mom's face, blotchy and swollen. Dad looming behind her, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. I opened the door. But I blocked the doorway with my body. We need to talk, Mom said, trying to push forward. No, we don't. What do you mean we don't? Dad's voice was low, threatening. You've turned our lives upside down. Cancelled cards, stopped rent payments. Are you out of your mind? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Out of my mind for finally saying no? This isn't just about you, Daniel, Mom's voice broke. The tears came instantly. We're your family. Your father's health is on the line. That's on you, I said steadily. It's always been on you. Listen to yourself, Dad snapped, stepping forward. You're throwing a tantrum over a misunderstanding. You shut me out, I shot back. I showed up for Christmas and you closed the door in my face. I paid your rent, your utilities. I kept this family afloat. And you treated me like an outsider. Daniel, you're being dramatic, Mom whispered, but her voice shook. Am I? I pulled out my phone again. Opened the security camera recording. And I played it. Right there in the hallway where anyone could hear. Mom's voice echoed off the walls. He's so clingy. Always expecting to be included just because he pays some bills. The color drained from Mom's face. Dad's jaw clenched. And then Ethan appeared from behind them, out of breath like he'd run up the stairs. I didn't mean it like that, he blurted. Come on, Dan. You know I was just being honest, I interrupted. Saying what you all think. That's not fair, Mom whispered, tears streaming down her face. We love you. No. You love what I can do for you. Dad's calm broke. His voice became a growl. Enough of this. You think you're better than us because you have money? You're acting like a spoiled child. No. I think I deserve respect. But I'll settle for peace. Peace? Dad laughed, but it was hollow. Desperate. Cutting off your family isn't peace. It's cruelty. Cruelty, my voice rose for the first time, is using someone over and over. Making them feel like they owe you just for existing. Cruelty is laughing at me while I paid your bills. Daniel, Mom's voice was broken now. We didn't know you felt this way. Because you never asked. I stepped back. Beginning to close the door. And now you can feel what I felt. Alone. Wait, Mom lunged forward. I shut the door in her face. The sound was final. A perfect reversal of that Christmas night. I stood there, breathing hard, the muffled sounds of her sobs barely reaching me through the wood. For a second, a sick ping of guilt twisted in my chest. But then I remembered the laughter through their door. The whispered insults. The constant feeling of being useful but never wanted. They kept knocking for another 10 minutes. I didn't move. I didn't even look. I just stood there in my quiet apartment, listening to them leave. An hour later, the buzzing started again. More calls. More messages. By morning, I had over 80 missed calls. But all I felt was a strange, warm calm. Weeks passed. Beautiful, quiet weeks. I woke up to silence. Not the anxious, heavy silence of waiting for something bad. But a calm, clean quiet. One morning, I was getting my mail when Mrs. Henderson, the building's maintenance manager, caught me by the mailboxes. Did you hear about your parents? She whispered, her voice hushed with gossip. Lost the house. Your mom's been calling the building manager trying to find your new number. I nodded slowly. Yeah. I heard. Your brother's working at the grocery store now. Saw him bagging at the Safeway on 5th. I heard that too. What happened? She pressed, eyes wide with curiosity. I just left, I said simply. And I walked away before she could ask anything else. Back in my apartment, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text preview showed enough. Daniel, we lost everything. Your father says it's my fault. Ethan won't speak to me. Please, we were wrong. I'm sorry. Come home. I stared at it. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long moment. Then I tapped delete. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel guilt. Just a quiet, powerful freedom. That evening, I found an old family album shoved in the back of my closet. I hadn't touched it in years. I flipped through the pages. Smiling faces. Summer picnics. Birthday cakes. There was young me, grinning, oblivious to what the future held. It was a part of my life. But only a part. I put the album back on the top shelf where it would gather dust. Where it belonged. In the past. The next morning, I stepped outside into crisp air. The sky stretched open above me, bright and endless. I took a deep breath. The deepest breath I'd taken in years. And for the first time, I smiled. Not because someone needed me. But because I didn't need them. I was free. So that's my story. The day I showed up for Christmas and my mother told me I had the wrong house. If you made it this far, hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to walk away from family? What was your breaking point? I read every single comment. And if you want more stories about people finally standing up for themselves, subscribe and turn on notifications.